Hello, welcome back to another video on 1968. I'm just going to focus on March and April of 1968 for this video. As far as at Marvel, March and April of 1968, after the humongous month of January and February, it was definitely a slowdown of things. But if there's anything that is awesome for March and April, would be one of my favorite Avengers covers of that year. 1968 have a lot of big event for the Avengers, but for March you have this book. I can't say enough about how much I love this cover. It has almost everything that I love to see on a cover. You have beautiful action shot with the yellow, the purple, the red, the green, the blue. Not much can be complained except that, maybe more red. But the Grim Reaper is a great introduction by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. I have always thought that he was one of those few cool villains with the cool look, the cool name, yet not utilized correctly for years and years and years through many of his iterations. And I think it's a damn shame, because I think he could have been so much more. But I'll give you a closer look at the end of the video. As far as the rest of Marvel, I have brought this out before, but March and April also brought the intro and conclusion to another storyline crossover between two titles, which is fairly rare in the 60s. But you have the X-Men, this issue 44 and then 45, and then concluded with the Avenger 53. I have shown the 3 books in another video highlighting the crossovers. So even though the story is not all that great, it's certainly significant in that, I believe it's only like the second time there was a story crossovers between key characters and key titles. Certainly, it's the beginning of a trend that we see much more in the 70s and 80s, and now it's crossover every month, every title, right? So that's all there was at Marvel. At DC, that's a different story. In March of 1968, perhaps one of the more important dates for DC for that year is the intro of this book, House of Mystery 174. Okay, here's my copy. Extremely difficult book to find in high grades. I don't even bother trying to find things above an 8.5. What makes this book special is that, for those that are not aware, EC Comics in the 50s and before that were famous for all the horror titles. I mean, I don't collect and have any EC. I admire those books from far, far away. They have awesome covers. Okay, so, since I never owned a books, I can't say about the interior, but I have seen enough scans over the years of some of the interior shot, and they all look amazing. In fact, Bernie Wrightson's influences from his style definitely came from many of the great artists at EC doing horror. But by the early 50s, especially in 1954, when that book, I can't recall the name of that book, something about, there's a famous book that was written that blame horror comic books and comic books in general for that for contributing to the delinquency of youth in America. And that set a trend that resulted in the destruction and burning of many comic books in the mid-50s. And basically brought down EC, as well as the creation of the Comic Authority Code, the one that kind of oversee the standard of comic books through the early 60s and 70s. So that's, so as far as horror comic books, after that change in perception, most horror comic books no longer, even at DC, no longer do the supernatural stuff with, the vampire, the werewolf, but they start to be more like, almost like a fantasy mystery kind of direction, almost like a Twilight Zone kind of feel to them. I have read a few and owned, I wish I brought it out for this video, but I had a few Silver Age House of Mystery books, and they involve often aliens from other planets kind of storyline. It is rarely horror as we know it today. So this book was important in that it ushered back the horror genre as we know it. DC hired Joe Orlando, the man that used to work at EC in the 50s, so it's not a surprise that when he came to DC shortly after, he rebooted the horror genre and once again bring back the werewolf and the vampire that it didn't caught on right away. At this point in 1968, House of Secret has been canceled for many years, and it took a few more years, because at least another year, I believe House of Secret didn't came on until another year and a half later. So even though this book kickstarted the rebirth of the horror genre, it took another year or two before the horror genre fully returned to popularity, with House of Secret, and then Marvel jumped in the fray with a lot of the reprints of the old monster books and kicked off their own horror genre in the 70s with Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night, all that stuff. But so this book is a marquee. It's a milestone in my opinion. Outside of that, at DC, no doubt Neal Adams was blowing up and doing fantastic work, and I pulled out a couple of notable awesome covers that he did. I believe I have shown some of these books before, but for example, this is one of my favorite, Spectre, beautiful purple covers. It's never easy to try to find the best Neal Adams cover because he did so many. And then you have two action books. This is gorgeous. Action 363. Look at Superman. I have never shown this book before, so I'll give you a closer look at the end of the video. But here's another one. So issue 363 and 364, gorgeous Neal Adams cover. I can't say enough about how much I love. This book was very close to being picked as in my top 10 favorite Superman covers of all time. This is a gorgeous cover. Last but not least is Strange Adventure 212 that came out April of 1968. Gorgeous orange covers, and then you add in the green colors and then the red of the Dead Man, and classic. I definitely will save all of these Strange Adventure books for another video when I highlight that entire run with Neal Adams sometime in the future. But anyhow, so that's what that's it. That's what you have for March and April of 1968. Pretty cool months for sure. For sure, March was pretty awesome with the House of Mystery 174. Anyhow, thanks for watching. We can start again with May and June and July of 1968 next. Thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, so here's a close-up look of the books. This book is pretty sharp. I love even the handwritten date, March 11th, doesn't bother me. Beautiful yellow, purple covers, gorgeous John Buscema cover. And the art inside is pretty awesome too. As I mentioned in previous videos, John Buscema penciling is pretty awesome, and his action movement is quite good. Definitely one of my favorites. So that's Avengers 52. Let's see. As you can see, the Grim Reaper is, I love the costume. It's crazy looking. Look at that. That is pure awesomeness right there. Okay, let's look at the Action 363. Beautiful Neal Adams cover. I just absolutely love the way Neal Adams drew Superman. You know, so much realism in his physique, not overly muscular. Gorgeous. The thing is, you know, Neal Adams today, when he draws superhero, he add a lot of muscle. You know, not in the good old days where if you look at his Batman and Superman, they are more real compared to today. Today, you know, if you look at his sketches or drawing on Superman or Batman, it's very muscular. It's good, but it's extremely different from the way he used to draw Superman. And just look at this one. Gorgeous. Both of these books were definitely high candidates on my favorite Superman covers. One of the videos I did a few weeks ago, but I didn't pick them, but no doubt they are great. As you can see, beautiful. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next time, bye.